All right, let's talk about the viral horror movie that's got everybody buzzing. Good Boy. This isn't just any ghost story. No, this one is told entirely from a dog's point of view. And trust me, it's something special.
So you've seen it, and you've probably got some big questions. Like, what exactly was that monster? What did that ending really mean? And of course, the one we're all desperately wondering, does the dog make it out alive? We're gonna dig into all of that.
Okay, so the real genius of this movie, right? It's the perspective. Every single thing you see is through the eyes of our good boy Indy. He's loving, he's totally confused by what's happening, and he's completely helpless. We're trapped right there with him, only seeing what he sees, and that's what makes it so incredibly chilling.
This film definitely doesn't hold your hand. It's up to us to put the pieces together, kind of like a mystery. And that mystery really kicks off with Indy's owner Todd and the sickness that just keeps getting worse.
So let's follow the breadcrumbs, just like Indy does. First, we see Todd getting sick, nosebleeds, coughing up blood. It's bad. Then, out of nowhere, they pack up and move to this creepy, old, boarded-up family house. That's when things get really weird. Indy starts seeing things, a shadowy mudman and another dog bandit who used to live there. All while this is happening, Todd's health is just plummeting. And the scariest part, Indy sees it all, but he has no idea what any of it means. He doesn't get the danger, and that's what keeps us on the edge of our seats.
And here's a little behind-the-scenes fact that makes this movie even more special. The dog who plays Indy, that's the director's actual dog in real life. Yeah, and get this, it took them 400 days to shoot because our furry star could only work for 2 hours a day. Talk about a labor of love. It just shows how personal this story was for the filmmaker.
Okay, so let's get to it. The climax. This is where everything comes to a head in a final, absolutely heartbreaking confrontation.
So this is where the horror just goes full-on supernatural. First, the unthinkable happens. Todd passes away in his sleep. But then, Indy sees it. He sees Todd's spirit being physically dragged into that dark basement by the mud monster. And in this awful, awful moment, Todd's spirit looks at Indy and tells him, "You can't save me." It's gut-wrenching. It's basically him saying, "Go, live." And right then, his sister Vera shows up, calling for Indy, offering him a way out.
All right, let's just get to the question that's been stressing everyone out. Yes, the dog survives. You can breathe now. After hearing Todd's whistle one last time, like a final goodbye, Indy makes his choice. He leaves the basement and goes with Vera. He chooses to live. But, just because Indy is safe doesn't mean the story's over. The ending is left wide open, and there are a couple of big ways to look at it. Was it all a metaphor, or was it a straight-up ghost story?
So you've got two camps here. On one side, you can see the whole thing as this really powerful metaphor. The mudman isn't a real monster, it's just how a dog's simple, loving mind would process something as horrible and complex as a terminal illness. It's the sickness made flesh. But then, there's the other way to see it, as a literal ghost story. This is a classic Gothic tale where a real supernatural evil is attached to this house and this family.
And that Gothic horror idea is super important because it explains why some things in the movie don't quite add up. Gothic stories aren't about logic. They're about creating a feeling of dread and mystery. So when you see Indy jump through a glass window and come out totally fine, that's not a mistake in the script. It's the movie telling you that you're in a world that doesn't follow our rules because we're seeing it through a dog's eyes. It's meant to feel off.
Okay, but hang on. Beyond the ghost story versus metaphor debate, there's another theory, a much, much darker one. And when you look for the clues, they're definitely there.
What if Todd took matters into his own hands? Let's really look at the clues from his last day, because it looks like there might be more going on than just the sickness taking its course.
Think about it. We know the hospital basically told him it's over, there's nothing more they can do. Then, he puts Indy outside with a bowl of food. It almost seems like he's setting him up to be found. He's running a generator in the pouring rain, which is super dangerous. You see those empty pill bottles next to his bed, and then there are his sister's calls. She sounds frantic, like she just got a final scary goodbye message. You add all that up, and it paints a pretty convincing picture of a man who decided he was going to die on his own terms.
So, with all these theories flying around, what does the director have to say? What was the intended meaning of it all?
Well, according to the director, it all boils down to one thing, Indy's choice. He says the ending is about Indy choosing the light over the dark. He had the option to stay loyal in that basement, to waste away with his owner's memory. But he didn't. He chose life. And that choice becomes even more powerful when you compare him to the other dog, Bandit. Remember him? He's the ghost dog.
Bandit faced the same choice with his owner, and he chose to stay in the basement. He chose loyalty, and he died there. Indy is faced with that exact same situation, but he makes the opposite choice. He breaks the cycle.
And if you're still worried about what happens to Indy, the movie gives us one last little clue to let us know he's going to be okay. Remember that quick shot from an old home movie? We find out Vera's a vegan. Now, that might seem random, but it's a little signal from the director that she's a kind, compassionate person. Indy is in good hands.
So in the end, that's what the movie leaves us chewing on. It's a story about loyalty, for sure. That incredible, one-of-a-kind bond between a person and their dog. But it also asks a really tough question. Where does that loyalty end? And where does an animal's own right to live, to survive, begin? It's a powerful thought to end on.